Also, jetzt sind Händler wieder unterwegs, unsere Händlerinnen, die Raiders, das Wacker Raiders, Tirol, die Band Seniors mit einer weiteren Durcheinlage oben eine 7-3 zu sehen. Also, das waren die unsere Band Seniors.
third race weekend of the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup on a sunny, crisp afternoon in Innsbruck in Austria. We're getting ready for the second and deciding heat on this Austrian track. Martin Haven and Greg Cackett ready to watch the action as the final 20 sleds go down. And Greg, the most bizarre top three grouping I think I've seen, not in terms of who's in it, but how huge the gaps are at this racetrack.
Yeah, we saw what will happen when you're in, solid kit with an immense push and an immaculate drive. And Hansi just brought it down in an insane time. The Amma brothers doing a great job. They're partnering this year. It's working to great effect. We're seeing a German 1-2-3 at the moment. These guys are huge pushers as well. Adam was definitely happy with that one. And then obviously we've got the GOAT, the big man Friedrich, with Alex Schully on the back getting the #1 push. But watch his pilot hand on it. Didn't go in till late and he's flopped off corner one there. So all things that are going to just dent your speed. When you're at that level, when you're at the top there, it's such fine margins. And when you're dealing with hundredths of a second, it's just wiped enough because Hansi, as we're going to see now, was perfect. So he might have been 200ths back in the start, which again, watch them try and rebound from that because George will not want to be #2. Beautiful load. The guy, I love watching this guy load. He's excellent. But Hansi was just fantastic all the way down. Beautiful out of Kreisel. Every single exit was immaculate. He had excellent speed all the way down and carried it through to a track record. Extraordinary start.
When you drive as smoothly as he did, you keep the speed on board that you get at the start. But look at the gap, 1400s first to second, third place 4300s back. The real interest comes with Adam Amor versus Frankie Del Duca, 200ths of a second. Mickey Vogt, maybe not out the medals either. And then 600 between Sipoulis and Treichel, another 300s back Patrick Baumgartner. Then there's another 100th for ninth between Boris Van and Simon Friedli. And then 8100s, 85, 86 back. I mean, the gaps everywhere are tiny, except in the top three. I mean, it's... Johannes Lochner has just gapped Francesco Friedrich the way that almost nobody ever does. And Friedrich will find a way to come back, and that brake handle will be looked at by Marco, the engineer. And there's Brad Hall, your driver. He's back with Big T Taylor on the back of the sled and had a run in 12th position. He's got a chance to move up as well. Only a couple of hundreds of improvement could move him up. So expect to see a lot of move around. There's Mihai Pakianu, the brakeman for the Romanian team. Alex Schuller.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see, well, for our perspective, seeing if Brad can sneak into the top 10. That would be a great return for coming back from such a serious surgery. But I really... keep your eyes peeled on Frank Del Duca. He did not have a clean run in that first heat. They had an excellent push. Josh, coming back from injury, gave him a great nudge. But Frankie was very loose down at the end then. It wasn't one of those wild rides where you find speed. It was just wild. But he had speed. So keep an eye on them because he's going to try and ruin the German party. Yeah,
the new US two-man sleds to go with the new four-man sled that they introduced post the games, built by Mark Vandenberg in Lake Placid. They are definitely raising a few eyebrows, and so is Del Duca, because you could give me that sled, it would not be fourth. Frank Del Duca, a relatively new driver. What a great week he's had. 20 sleds to go. Race 3 of the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup. First two-man race here since November 2021, so more than 2 calendar years, because last season when we raced in February, it was a double four-man event. We had lots of races here in the COVID seasons, but we are back again. Prochaska with Anton Vijas behind him. Started 5:21 in the first heat. That's more than respectable for a young crew.
Yeah, great getaway. Dropped back a little here, but that can happen in the second heat push, especially with such a green crew. It's great to see Joachim. He's a World Cup brakeman turned pilot debutant in the two-man. He's got to the second round, as we were saying in the first heat. For those guys, that's all you want to get. Get yourself top 20, get the second heat, and close out the race. That's a great return and a great weekend's work.
It's more ice mileage, It's about respectability, but it's about getting the experience in when you're racing the very best in the world.
Definitely, he's got off a bit early from the Chrysler. But the thing as well, there were a lot of mistakes made in the first heat, so if you wanted to eliminate some of those, it's looking tidier. There's still some little mistakes on the way down, which will just scrub his speed. But this is definitely tied in the first heat. He's got a top 20 run. big tick in the box, I think.
Well, that takes the pressure off, so then you can go out and do whatever you like in the second heat. You're not going to lose out. 52-13 in the first heat. Oh, 52-13 in the second heat.
Right, that's consistency for you.
Yeah, off a slightly slower start, but again, he has the advantage of fresh ice, so a brand new spritz on the ice, which means it'll be just that little bit greasier, that little bit slicker than it was when he came down 23rd of our 24 starters.
Yeah, so as we said, in the first heat, there were just a few mistakes along the way down, and I think this was a slightly tidier run. He's just a little late off there, pushes him across, takes the tap. Does he keep it square? He does just about. But a good job from Tony Regis there as well. Some good pushes there, I think.
Another young crew, in fact, their first ever appearance. I mean, talk about babyface Jakob Mandelbauer and his brakeman, Diane Nicolabadi. So, brand new crew for Austria. And they made it into the second heat as well. The perfect place to make your World Cup debut is at the track you know better than any other.
Definitely, and these guys, again, the ones to watch for the future. You know, Nicholas Bard in the back is a dynamic guy, 5:27. So they've dropped back just a touch as well, just a few hundredths. So again, new athletes, sometimes it's difficult to maintain that stimulation, that level. You sometimes drop off a little bit. Athletes will find their way in their career. I know I always found I was someone who either held, stayed consistent, or I improved. On the days you go backwards, you have to really look at your preparation, your warm-up. What have you done that day? I shouldn't be going backwards. Other people would argue against that. They'd say, no, you should empty the tank on the first one. The second one should be slower. So there's up for debate all around there.
Well, and the other thing that changes is the track changes, the temperature, the amount of stickiness in the ice at the top. If the refrigeration's on hard, if the air's got a bit more humid, then it starts to frost up the start grooves. So all sorts of weather conditions can have an effect as well. In the green, all the way down, and opens up an 1800ths of a second lead, so he at least holds his spot. It was a 52.10 compared to a 51.98 from the first heat, so they don't quite hold the speed, but they have a top 20 finish, and that is how you start your World Cup campaign.
Good job, boys. I think he just opened up his advantage. I think he was 1500ths ahead of Prochaska in the first one. He's 18 here, so he's just opened up a tiny gap there, 300ths, but a great experience for the kid. I think this is, you know, we said there's a vacuum after Benny Meyer. Trikel's doing a great job. He's got a great crew behind him. It's really exciting, just like the Polish boys, to watch these guys on their journey. The next generation of Austrian sliders. Fantastic.
Absolutely, you know, and every generation you've got to train your replacements, and that's what's been happening in the Czech Republic team. We had 3 Czech crews here on the start line. I mean, that's the first time in nearly a quarter of a century of doing this that I've seen that level of competitiveness from the Czech Republic. Adam Debeš, Michal Debeš on the back of the sled. When we get to the top 3, the Amor brothers are brothers. Adam and Michal are not related.
And they pushed well in the first heat. They pushed really well in Le Plan last week. I know Adam was really pleased with Misha's job on the back there. 5:26. We're seeing everyone just losing a couple of hundredths off their start here. So we may see that as the standard throughout. We'll see when we get to some of the bigger boys in the top 10 in the field. But Adam will look to tidy up his drive. He'll want to finish ahead of Dominic, his compatriot. The race within a race, as we say. He's looking quite tidy here at the top.
Had a 10th over Mandelbauer in the first heat, opened it up to 1100s, where it remains. Not quite as quick as the Austrian into the Kreisel. Now he's ahead.
Yes, we see he had a nice exit from Kreisel, kept it close to the middle left, got himself into the 8 and 9. Well, he's losing some of that speed now, but I think he's going to be able to hold on here.
Yeah. Not much ice between here and the finish, and he holds on by 500ths of a second, 52.15, so 500ths slower than his Austrian rivals, but he had 10 hundredths in hand. So Adam and Michal Debeš move into the leaders box. A moment or two in the leaders box for Jakob Mandelbauer and Diane Nicolabadi, and that will be the first time they've ever done that, because at no other level do you have a TV leaders box.
Yeah, and that's what we were saying in the first heat as well, Martin. You know, for these new guys, that's all part of the, you know, the pageantry, the level up, the cameras. It's all very different. Yeah. It's all a different type of pressure. So this is great experience for them, and it's so much fun in the leaders box.
And you get out of the sled, and somebody's going, "Come this way, come this way." No, I've got to get myself. No, come this way.
Yeah.
And well, I haven't got my jacket. You know, they're not ready for it. They've never had to do it before. It's not something you think of when you're ready for your first World Cup race. So it's Adam Debesh who leads for the Czech Republic, and he had a massive 300s deficit to Jakob's Calendar and Edgar Zungas. And these are the sort of tiny margins we see so often because this track is short. I mean, it's 10 seconds shorter in the run than La Plania last week. So there's not a lot of ice here.
Yeah, and a much shorter start. La Plania will feel like you're running absolutely forever. Here, you're in, you're down, and a little squirrely out of the spurs there, but 5:22. Okay, so these boys are improving on their start by 300. That's a good job. That's what you want to see.
Edgar Zungas behind, making his two-man World Cup debut. He's started a handful of four-man races before, but never in the sports car.
That's it. And if you recall, in the first heat, they had a little lift out of the spurs when they hit there, just a little bit of experience. And I don't think they did on this time, so you can see a couple of hundreds gained even just from that error.
Top speed as the Chrysler, a nice clean exit. The gap is growing out to 1800s the lead.
All right, that little skiddy. I think he'll hold on to this.
This is a much better run, and this is going to put the real challenge on the man with whom he was tied, Mihai Tentea of Romania. It's a really good-looking run, 51.83.
3500s, good job.
All right, only 200s quicker than he went in the first heat, but it looked tidier. So he was tied for 16th with Mihai Tentea, behind a tie for 14th. Four sleds covered by just 500ths of a second.
You see Edgar's launched himself into the sled, so you see his hands coming away from the handles there. Now, normally, we'd say that's cardinal sin in bobsleigh and push. You want to maintain pressure on the handles. You take your hands off, you're losing pressure with the sled, and that's going to affect the push as well. But people have different techniques, people have different approaches, and these guys are still brand new as well. But as you say, a tidier run from Jakobs there.
Yeah, looked like it. He managed to keep the speed up. So will that break the tie with Romania's Mihai Tentea? He's got the other Mihai in the team, Mihai Pakianu behind him. The tall figure at the front of the sled is Mihai's dad, Julian Pakianu, former driver, and now he is the coach of the team.
So this will be a heavy sled. The boys are a bit lighter in the Romanian team right now, and Mihai on the back, not Mihai on the front, Mihai on the back is converted from skeleton, and he's been working on getting that body weight closer to 90. And he's moving well. You can see, look at the turnover in his legs. He's doing all right here. And they had a half-decent push in the first one.
5:35. Okay, again, like most, have slipped to a 300s.
And as we said, that can be for all sorts of reasons, but Mihai in the front or Mihai in the back? Mihai in the front is going to want to keep this as tidy as possible up the top to make sure he carries as much of that start speed through to the Chrysler as we approach.
We often find him out driving his start.
#1 speed.
Yep.
Beautiful exit.
One of his best ever World Cup results, 7th place here a couple of seasons ago. Great exit.
This is a really good drive from Mihai.
If he could grow another 8 or 9 inches and put on another 30 kilos, he would be an absolute monster in a sled.
Oh, I think we'd all push that button.
There we go, across
Beautiful
the line,
braking.
51.90, but they do lose out. 700s back.
Yes, they drop a spot, but hey, smile, thumbs up, and got a lot of time for Mihai's braking on the back there. You see him pop straight up through the finish line. Brought that sled to a stop. You see him just, it looked like he was correcting around there.
Yeah, just a little extra bit of steer there to get the sled straight. Otherwise, you have that late runner pressure, and the sled then starts to slide down into the left-hand wall. Mihai Pakianu on the right, Mihai Tentea on the left. Latvia lead, 5 sleds down, 15 to go in Innsbruck. Second heat of the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup here in Innsbruck in Austria. 14th equal after the first of our 2 heats. Dominik Dvorak and Dominik Zaleski from the Czech Republic. Dvorak briefly started his career as a brakeman before the opportunity to drive presented itself, and he seized that with both hands. A former Crystal Globe bronze winner in the two-man bobsleigh World Cup. He's got plenty of talent. Series of knee injuries over the last couple of seasons have really hampered his speed. They start 5:20.
So they've equalled their push from the start, so they've held on there. That's excellent pushing. As I said in the first heat, these are two of my favourite guys in the circuit. Dom Dvorak in the front seat. He's been around as you know, as long as I have now, which is getting to be silly. And he's just been a class act the entire time. And he's had knee problems in recent years, which have affected and hampered him a little bit in the start. We're talking about a guy who's a 10.9 sprinter, you know, which is no slouch. He was a good multi-eventer in his day. And he's been a fantastic pilot. But when you've got wheels on the back with, like Dominik Zaleski, a 10.1 sprinter, always going to be in the mix. This isn't a bad drive.
Nice lines. Don't forget, he only had 500s in hand over current leader Jakob's calendar, so he's added a little to that now. It's coming back. He didn't quite have the speed, but he's got enough. That'll do. 51.86. It's not a massive margin, but it's all it takes, and frequently that's all you get down this place is 100th or two and changing position.
And it. Don't leave him hanging. He's going, what was my start? What was my start?
Yep.
Did you hear? What was my start?
Yeah.
Yeah, the brakeman's definitely got their priorities in order as they go through the finish line. Don't care about the downtime. You just see him just sliding off there.
Yep. Again, long, late steer, then lets the steer release to try and avoid the skid into the wall. Not too bad, 9 to 10, but you're scrubbing off speed there.
Good job, boys.
They are fun guys to chat to. Next up, we have a pair of Chinese sleds, first of whom Sun Kai-chi and rookie brakeman Qi Zhangyu, who is 16 years old, and I mean just 16 years old, started sliding the week after his 14th birthday, qualified for the Youth Olympic Games in boys monobob last week on this track, and is now making his World Cup debut as a brakeman.
Yeah, it's just extraordinary stuff from this kid. 5:23. These are good pushes, and you know this guy he's got an immature frame. He's still a child. He's 16 years old, and these are big pieces of kit to push. And he's mixing it with grown men. This is what an exciting talent for the future for the Chinese program.
100%. And if he can mature as a driver as well as a physical specimen, then they may have a race winner on their hands. Second best speed in the red behind Dvorak. Don't forget they were tied to the 100th of a second. Don't forget also that Dom lost speed below the Kreisel.
Yeah, so watch this here, because he had a beautiful exit at Kreisel, which meant he'll be carrying good speed down here. He's just chipping away.
He had big height out of 10 as well, swooping down into the low labyrinth.
Could be single digits. 400s, there we go.
So 51.90, exactly the same run down that Mihai Tentea had, and he slips behind Dominik Dvorak and Dominik Zaleski, and he also slips behind Jakob's calendar. So the top three now are covered by 400s, the top four covered by 900s.
But it can show you the importance as well of maintaining or increasing your start on the second heat. So these guys dropped 100th, Dvorak maintained, so they had an extra few hundredths in the bank there as well, just from the start. And on a starter's track, it's absolutely imperative that you get that right.
I think he might have touched.
Was it?
I think he might have touched. And I know that Yannis Minins will be questioning you about that. So Sun Kai-chi done and down. His former brakeman, Wu Jingzi, on the back now of Li Chunjan's sled. These two are being put together post the games in Beijing. And it seems to be gelling, this partnership. They've stuck with it so far this season.
Yeah, Wu's a good brakeman. And they had a solid push in the first one, a 5:23. So they actually pushed, 100 slower than the teenager. So I'm positive he'll be wanting to lay something down here.
Yeah, put the kid back in his box. Last race here for Lee, 15th place in January 2020. Don't forget, in the COVID seasons, the Chinese were not able to leave their home country. That's why they missed out. 5:23, another 5:23
They maintain.
So they had 600s in hand over Dvorak and Sun. 100th back.
He's going to need to be absolutely inch perfect in this top bit, because if you lose too much speed, you are not finding it back on this track. He's keeping it to 100, so he's kept that bleed.
And the opportunity exists again lower down where Dvorak was not perfect. Here he is, he's in the lead. And if he's clean here, and he is-ish, then he's got a chance. And he was only 100th behind Brad Hall. He's only 600ths out of the top 10.
Yeah, he's picking up his 10th of the line, 1300ths, there we go.
51.79, that's a good run down for Lee Chun-jan. 500 slower than his first heat, but that eases him in front of Dominik Dvorak. So he'll be no worse than 13th. He leads with 12 sleds remaining in this second deciding heat.
Yep, that was a good drive there from Lee. He's going to keep Brad honest in this next heat, because those gaps were very, very fine. And if Brad's going to be wanting to get into the top 10, he's going to need to pull out a drive every bit as good as the one we've just seen.
Yep. Well, Brad, very familiar with the top 10 in two-man and four-man over the last few seasons, so he knows where to find the speed.
Here he goes, the trademark down the ice twitch. I mean stare, Brad.
Big T, Taylor Lawrence at the back. Graham Richardson helping load the sled into the grooves.
Honestly, Brad is, you know, we make fun of each other a lot, but Brad is extraordinary. Like, to come back to this level. At this point, we thought we were going to be pushing him sat in. We thought that sled was going to weigh an extra 100 kilos. But he's in, he's down. Look at the technique on the guy's fantastic. 5:24, so right. Dead heat with the Chinese athlete. So let's keep this in one piece, please, Brad. He's in the green.
This is all driving now, and so often this race is, as well, I mean, as well as others, but so often the starts are so tight together.
Yeah, and Brad, I tell you, he has a real gifted understanding of driving bobsleighs. He really knows what he's talking about. I always tell him, when he retires, he's going to be like gold dust. Every program is going to be wanting to hire him to coach them, because he just has, this is beautiful stuff. He really understands how the sled behaves.
As long as you can explain it. But this new sled from Ixent that builds all the Monobob sleds.
He's got to hold on here, Brad. Round 14, as he held on to it, 200s.
Yep, that'll do, 51.78.
That's enough.
100 faster than Lee in the first heat, 100 faster than Lee in the second heat.
So he'll have to wait in the leader's box now and cross his fingers that he can sneak ahead of Follador and Friedley and get himself into the top 10. But I think a solid day's work for Brad there. You know, he seeded 24th. It's a tough ask coming back in Eagles from such a deep sea draw in the first heat.
And the other thing is that the
job.
key element is not to aggravate that injury.
Definitely. Like we said, we took the hit of this pre-Christmas period by allowing us all to heal, to recover. I've had a serious injury too, with a view that it's about 2026. So, you know, if we do anything silly now, the whole thing was pointless. You know, we have to make sure we are careful with those steps.
We're fit and healthy, and everyone back at home.
There you go.
Thanks for staying up and watching, and
Staying up,
Cut him off there.
2:30 in the afternoon on a Saturday.
Yeah,
Staying
Brad's got a very
sober,
lazy
maybe.
family.
Right, next up, Cedric Follador and Greg Jones on the back of the Swiss sled. We've got two Swiss sleds in a row now. Simon Friedley was just 500s ahead of them. They were 400s ahead of Brad Hall. So another one of those tight groupings. And good to hear some Swiss cowbell as well. First time this season we've had that.
Yes, these boys had a 31 in the first heat and a 33. So again, they've got just a couple of 100s back there, but you know, some of the best in the field have been doing that. We saw Brad Taylor drop a couple of 100s there too.
So they lose 900s to Brad Hall, Taylor Lawrence at the start, which means their first heat advantage has been wiped out from 500s back to 1500s back. That lack of speed at the start follows you down the track.
That's it. So what we'll look for here, we'll see his exit of Kreisel, which is coming now. And let's see how he gets us. He's clean out of there. Now let's see this bottom part. He's clawed back 100th.
Good speed. Probably no better than Brad Hall at this stage, and he had a little rocky exit out of 9.
Yeah, which sometimes can be enough. We're going to do with such small margins, but he's coming down. It's going to be single digits. Is Brad going to hold on here?
Don't think Follador's got enough track left to get it.
200s.
51.84. That's a long way shy of the 51.69 first heat. And he'll be disappointed with that. To slip a spot. I'm going to say now, a fatuous thing, over such a big margin when he had 400ths of an advantage.
I know, it's ridiculous.
You know, so many of these are, you know, if it was timed on the thumb, they would be literal dead heats.
Yeah, it's on such a knife edge. It's why it's so difficult to pinpoint what exactly goes right and wrong in the sport. You know, bobsleigh variables, whether it's temperature or brakeman or pilot driving or equipment or, you know, ice temperature, all the different things that come together. It's such a confluence, it's difficult to pinpoint.
Repeatability is all but impossible in this sport.
Absolutely.
Sun is heading down, the mountains looking even more beautiful here in Innsbruck. Brad Hall leads, 10 down, 10 to go. Race 3 of the two-man bobsleigh World Cup. Greg Cackett. Interesting little tie for second place behind Brad Hall there on the left, Taylor Lawrence on the right, Cedric Follador, Lee Chun-Jan, both tied, 200s behind him. And so that does mean that if there's a little mistake from Seaman Friedley there, then, yeah, the door is wide open. And we're looking at these margins. So look, he's 3 or 4 places away from, you know, top 8 or something. But that's only a handful of hundredths of a second. We're not talking full seconds. We talked about this last week. 1,550 metres in La Plan, and we're looking at margins of error of 1 or 2 hundredths of a second. If you had a 1,500-metre foot race, that would be photo finish territory.
Every time, yeah. It's crazy, but you know what? As I said earlier, it's so cool to come back into a field which is lots of sleds, it's competitive, it's fine margins. That's what we want to see. We want to see real racing.
Well, who's missing? From the start of the season, it's only been you guys. It's only been, you know, Brad and the team who've been missing among all our front runners. Yeah. All the other quick drivers in the men and women's field, apart from Kaylee Humphries in the women's field, are all here. There is no one missing.
No, it's honestly, it's brilliant. And we're seeing, yeah, close-fought battles in the middle of the park, which, again, it's great for, I mean, for Brad. If he can sneak a top 10 here, he'll be absolutely over the moon with that. And seeing our, you know, our young lads, our debutantes coming through, everyone getting some experience, everyone, this sport is beautiful. There's Nicola. Mariani in the back there.
Brad will worry less about the top 10 and more about the time in the leader's box gooning around on camera.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, Brad hates being centre of attention.
Well, you know,
don't we all?
As do we all. As do we all. Exactly right. Well, great to see some fans out here in the Tyrol on this lovely Saturday. I mean, we're right by the Patcherkerfel ski piste. They could so easily be out skiing. Really good to see them here supporting. Final 10 sleds, race 3 of the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup. We are ready to go with Cedric Follador and Gregory Jones. I beg your pardon, Seaman Friedley and Luca Rolli. Brad Hall and Taylor Lawrence of Great Britain are our current leaders. The gap for Friedley, a slender 900ths of a second. We make that sound such a big deal, Greg Cackett. It is the blink of an eye and a bit more, that's it.
Very much so. Now, Friedley has dropped 200s there on the start, the 5:18 push in the first heat. He's got an exceptional brakeman on the back in Luca Rolli, who is topping out the Swiss testing this year. He is an extraordinary athlete, and we've really seen the impact of him on Seaman's 4-man sled. So they've dropped 200s here. He had the 900s in the bank anyway. It's already come down to 6, so 4th best speed. Seaman needs to be perfect down here if he's going to stop Brad's charge into the top 10.
We had a little nudge on the way down to the Kreisel. Out of 9.
That's decent.
Yeah, but only the 5th best speed, so nothing really in the tank at the moment. 600ths of a second. I'm not sure he's got enough. As ever at the line, it's going to be tight, but Brad Hall has got the lead. It is a top 10 result on his return.
Brad blaming Taylor, obviously.
For getting him into the top 10, yeah, obviously.
There you
go. Luca.
Well done, he got it. Don't hold on, let someone get you. There you go.
By inches. By inches. You never, when you're in the back seat, you never want to let the sled slide back, do you?
No, I did that actually on my first ever 4-man here in a taxi bob behind Lee Johnston. I let go of the brakes up on the rubber, we rolled backwards, I put the brakes back on, we bent over the top and I crushed my hand against the frame. So it was welcome to bobsleigh, Greg.
Yeah.
Oh, and welcome to your sled there, Seaman.
Not the tidiest load.
No.
I think he slipped on his power stride getting in as well, and so it was all at 6s and 7s. So not the ideal second heat for Seaman Friedley. He slips into...
No, he's held, he's held.
No, he has held. Why did it look like it was red at the line? So he's in 10th place. Brad Hall, 800s back, and a 10th back, Cedric Follador and Lee Chun-Jan. Now, 9th place after the first run, Boris Vian and Antoine Rieu. Boris Vian, I don't know how he's feeling this week. Hopefully a lot better than last week. He missed the final day of training with a temperature of 41 degrees, which even in old money is quite high.
Absolutely.
He's feeling absolutely wretched. The last thing you want to do when you're that hot and trembly and sweaty is strip off all your clothing and stand in sub-zero temperatures. Luckily, that's his day job, so he had to.
Absolutely, and you know what, Big Boris and Big Antoine, they pushed a 5:14 in the first heat, a top 4 push. I mean, the Monegasque, they do churn out some great athletes. You know, Rudy was an exceptional pilot and a good athlete. Boris was his brakeman. He's in the front seat now. In and down, Boris. And a 5:15, you know, it's only dropped 100th, but in this field, that is going to, I think that's going to stack up extremely well. Good job, boys.
If you get a top 5 start and a driver who even approaches being able to handle a sled, then you get what we've got here. A young driver, very inexperienced, still in the top 10.
It's the bobsleigh model, really. It's what you want. You want to take your best brake athletes and you want to put them in the front seat, teach them to drive. And Boris is a shining example of when that can go absolutely bang on.
Yep. Well, Prince Albert of Monaco, a 5-time Olympian. They're being coached by another 2-time Olympian for Monaco, Bruno Michon, for France rather, Bruno Michon. And Boris Vian does look like he's got a good future ahead of him, and he's going to hold the lead here. He does. In fact, he extends it. 51.66. Only 300 slower than his first heat.
That's good going from Boris. And again, you can see the example of, you know, a fast pusher. You know, it's a starter's track. You stick down a good start, you're going to hold on to your advantage if you're ahead, and that's exactly what they've done.
He was 900s out of 7th place. He could move up as well. Boris Vian, Antoine Rieu take the lead for Monaco. Not sure what's in the Royal Diary in the Pink Palace in Monaco, but checking the result a little bit later will bring a smile to the face of Prince Albert.
LA boys. And you saw Antoine there, they clobbered the wall after the finish line, but you saw his head pop straight up, got the brakes on, he knows where he is. Get them on early and get around the braking corner. Safe as houses.
Great start to the season for this young man, Patrick Baumgartner of Italy, with Robert Mattia behind him. A good starting combination, 18th fastest in the field of 24. With the 5:25, drove himself down into 8th place.
Yeah, and you know, Patrick's always struggled for the start. It's always been his downfall in his career so far. He's a stunning driver, and he's been around for a long time. They've held on to 5:25, so they hold that advantage. But Patrick will need to show his driving skills here, because that was a good run by Boris with an excellent start. So we'll see if that bears out.
It's so hard to make a difference here. It's about limiting the mistakes.
Absolutely.
It's about who makes fewer mistakes. 600s back. 500s back. He's coming. He's quicker than Boris Vian of Monaco.
I think if he keeps this clean, you're going to see this come down. It's going to be...
third best speed.
Little check there, but he's good.
9 to 10. Where's he going to hit the green?
Here he comes. 300.
300ths of a second. He should have enough in hand.
He's going to be green through the line.
Dives for the line.
No! Interesting.
So Boris Vian will move up to no worse than 8th place.
That's a big scout for Boris.
Yes, it is, especially this season.
Yeah.
The 2012 Youth Olympic gold medalist in boys bobsleigh, Patrick Baumgartner, 4th in Beijing in the 2-man. His last result on this track in a 2-man, 25th place. He's going to be inside the top 10. I mean, that's how much his form has transformed this year.
Oh, and what beautiful timing for an Italian Games in 2026. I think Patrick will be one to watch over these next couple of years. We're so happy to see them get a silver. I know what that's like, you know, as a World Cup crew that was, you know, you used to bite your hand off to get a top 6. And then you get that first podium, it just raises the mental barrier.
Yeah.
Great job, and one of the good guys as well.
And so close to the 2-man podium on the Olympic track in Beijing as well. So Boris Vian leads for Monaco with 7 to go. Now this sled, Marcus Treichel, Sasha Stepan, they have 900ths of a second in hand over Vian. Again, it's 2 places. The human eye takes 700ths of a second to blink. We're talking teeny margins.
Yeah, and a good push from the boys. They snuck into the teens, a 5.19 in the first heat. Sasha is one of the smaller guys in the field. It'll be a heavy sled, which just shows how good the start is for him. So here we go. They want to hold on to this or go faster. What have they done? 20, so only drop 100. It's a good push, boys.
Still 5 of their 900s advantage over Boris Van has evaporated, and Van had greater velocity out of the first corner.
So we'll see if Trikel can benefit from home ice.
Yeah, he's already limited the damage and turned 500s advantage into 600s. 700s at the Kreisel, quicker than Boris Van.
Watch the exit, beautifully done. Drew a long line round there, came out beautifully. And that's pretty bang on. This is good driving from Marcus.
Yep, 9 down to 10, clean as a whistle. Creeping away, but again, you know, this is his home track. It's a good drive, and he's only just creeping away from Boris Van. 51.66, exactly the same time that Boris did in that second heat. So he holds on, courtesy of a better first run down. And that shows how good Boris Van has been here, that Marcus Trikel on home ice finds nothing over him in the second heat.
That's it, and that's going to be pressure on Emil Sapoulis next. To maintain his top 6 credentials, because Marcus will be hoping to have snuck into that party, because the top 6 here, you know, you'll always take it. And in bobsledding, the margins are so fine. You almost need the wider podium. You need the 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Yeah.
It is an exceptional class of field, and it's really good to see that raising again. Good job, Marcus.
Yeah, there's easily 10 drivers who could be in the top half dozen here. There's easily 6 who could be on the podium. And one of them's not fit. Brad Hall currently in 5th place. Expect him to be fighting for medals long before the end of the season. So, in 6th position for Latvia, Emil Tsipulis with Dove Springs behind him. Springs, again, starting to become one of those Latvian veterans. Whatever else they do, some of the Latvian brakemen manage to go decades in the sport, or at least a decade in the sport, with barely an injury.
Yeah, Davis is just such a monstrous athlete as well. And a good load, that looks smoother this time. 5.19, so they only drop 100th, which seems to be, again, pretty much the standard in the field. They've got green numbers so far. Emil's going to need to be brilliant here because Marcus had an immaculate run. 700 so far, keeping it quiet, keeping it tidy at the top here.
600s from the first heat. They started 100 quicker. 800s now. Again,
Fastest speed.
tiny margin, yeah. Second fastest Trikel was in the Kreisel. They're only 8th fastest. The gap won't grow. And it won't grow again. Low in 10.
Ooh, late. He's okay, yeah.
Gonna have enough, isn't he? It'll be a handful of hundreds at the line.
300s, there we go.
300ths of a second. He led by 6 in the first heat. 300 slower than Marcus Trikel in the second. So he hangs on by the skin of his teeth.
That's a good job from the guys there. Held onto their top 6 position. They will get a wider podium medal, which is all good. This is all good silverware. It's all important stuff. You want to be, it's that winning habit. You want to make sure you're constantly in the mix. You're one of the top pilots and the top brakemen. This is normal for you. This is where you belong. And once you get in there, you don't want to be nudged out.
And that's the thing, not that sort of exceptional freak performance that gets you something special, but being able to repeat it week in, week out. So actually it becomes, as you said, normal.
Yeah.
And a surprise if you're not in that form.
Definitely, it's something the big man Friedrich is so good at.
Emil Sapoulis leads for Latvia, 5 to go. Mickey Vogt taking the support off his back at the final moment as he lines up on the line with Sandro Mikkel, his brakeman. 5th fastest push, 5th at the bottom.
So happy to see these boys take a gold last week. In the plan, they've been knocking on the door of something exceptional there for quite a few years now. Sandro's an excellent brakeman. Mickey is one of the safest pair of hands in the sport. And a 5.14. Yeah. So they've improved by 100, shows their class act. And Mickey's still having a bad back. I mean, these two really are a world-class pair.
Yeah, this will be, tomorrow will be his final drive for 3 weeks before we get to St. Moritz. Give giving him as much rest as they can. Best speed of all. Previous best speed was Cedric Follador in a Swiss sled. Vogt faster again than Follador and Tentea.
This is beautiful driving from Mickey.
He's easing away now from Emil Sapoulis. It was 0.08 of a second. It's going to be 1/4 of a second at the line. This is Vogt shooting for the medals. He was only 0.12 out of bronze. That is a great run.
Only 300 slower than his first heat.
Track is not speeding up as the sun is setting. I think it is slowing down a little. But Mickey Vogt, 5200s off the lead, but only 1200s from a medal. He could be in the medals again.
That's it. All we need to see is some mistakes from the boys in front, and they could nick something here. But they did what they're supposed to do. A bigger start, improved by 100th.
Better
Great
start,
pictures.
better drive.
Yeah, Mickey, as we said, he's such a safe pair of hands. He knows how to drive. They've got good kit in the two-man, the Swiss program. And look, when you're straight as a die like that down the track, you're earning every 100th of a second that you get. Good job, Mickey.
Yeah.
I agree.
Whatever he said. Yeah, me too. Next up, Frank Del Duca and Josh Williamson back in this new US two-man sled. Brand new for this season.
All right, we're going to need to see every 100th out of you, Josh. Give Frankie everything you got. And Frankie, you have a tidy run. You could absolutely be in the medals here. Absolutely spoiling the German party.
Del Duca is not driving like a relatively new driver, in the same way that Keisha Love isn't in the women's competition. He's driving like he's been doing this for years, and he really hasn't. 5:17, matched their first start, and it's not so much about whether they stay in front of Vogt. They will be focused on the smaller gap from them to bronze, which was just 0.02 of a second.
Yeah, since I saw the first run, I've been just itching to see Frankie's second. And this is good. He's opening his advantage over Mickey.
We're not getting speeds off the sled. The telemetry isn't working, but that was a clean exit off the Kreisel. The gap's out to 1/10 of a second. This is a really good run. If you gap Mickey Vogt in a two-man sled, you know you're doing well. Is this going to be enough to put Frank Del Duca in the medals? 1200s ahead of Vogt. Vogt's not going to get a medal here unless there's calamity in the German team, but Del Duca might. 51.42. It came away a little bit down in the lower labyrinth. He went from 1200s up to 8 at the line, but Josh Williamson is loving that.
Well, what a return for the guy. Josh has been through the absolute injury mill. He's been off for a long, long time, and he's had to be so patient. And he's honestly one of the nicest guys in the field, and he's one of the most talented athletes. He's a serious, serious member of the American program, and he absolutely turbocharges their start. But, I mean, Frankie got, was it fourth last week?
Yep.
Le Plan, too? So he's minimum matched that. And have yet to see whether he's going to get into the top 3. Great job, boys.
This is Frankie Del Duca's 7th drive in a two-man World Cup sled.
Yeah, and he had a real stinker of a year last year, Frankie, in terms of injuries. He was really struggling in Maritz, I remember, and he had a few concussions, struggled with horseshoe, and it just wasn't his year. But this year could absolutely be the one.
All right, so it is Frank Del Duca to break the German sweep on the podium. Adam in front and Issam Amour, the brothers for Germany, in 3rd place after the first heat.
Okay, 5:12 in the first heat. 3rd fastest push. There's going to be pure pride on the line here. They're going to want to drop that. 5:12 they maintain. It's still a great job. Any sled here maintaining or improving their start is doing a great job because it is going backwards. Now, can he hold on?
He had 200s. They've outstarted Frank Del Duca and Josh Williamson by 5, so he should be 1/10 in front by now. And he is, but he's not building on it.
See the exit of Kreisel, that's beautiful. He's coming down a little.
Best speed of all, though. The FES sleds are very quick, little drift as well. Nothing in it in the drive. It's going to be that cumulative start advantage coming down to 600s.
Here we go.
Could be down to the 100th of a second. Is this a US medal or is it the Germans? It is the Germans. 51.37. René Spies celebrating that one. He knows that Adam and Issam Amour will have their first World Cup medal.
And great job for them. Shame for Frankie and Josh not to break into the top 3 there, but what a story for these two. And to do it with your brother, that's got to be real special.
Yeah, Adam Amor, the driver, the junior world champion, not with his brother on the sled. 3rd in the overall Europe Cup standings last season.
But these guys are excellent athletes. And you see Adam there, I think actually needs, you know, he's still learning.
A little bit of shuffle there, getting into the sled. Yeah, not that big power stride in.
Which will impact things. That'll be one of the things that he'll learn. Those things will improve. They'll get better over the years. Because, oh, this I'm getting knocked about in a bit there.
Yeah.
No problem for him. Look at the size of the guy.
Watch the way that 100-odd kilos gets bounced around in the back of the sled.
Good job, fellas.
Adam on the right, Issam on the left.
Top 3 for the brothers.
And the klaxon sounds for Francesco Friedrich and Alex Schuller. Friedrich has 11 gold medals in 12 starts on this track. The missing one, he was beaten by Hansi Lochner, and he took the silver.
5:03.
Holy moly!
That's what when Friedrich decides he wants to push, when Alex Schuller decides he wants to push, these guys just turn up the heat every time. You cannot look at their first start in the first heat and think that that's what you're going to see on the day. They always improve.
They always look at the start record as their benchmark. They want to beat it every time out. 5,700s up. This is not about Amor. This is about trying to win his 12th two-man gold in Innsbruck.
Yeah, he's absolutely gunning for Hansi here, and they would have spoken to each other before this heat. They'd have said, we need to drop that start. I'm going to drive the hell out of this.
Wild at the bottom.
Hey, but this is where Wild is fast.
6600s. 51 flat, 200s quicker than his first heat. But Hansi went 50.88 in the first heat. There was 1400s between them. What does that do? Well, here's how this measures up. This man has 11 two-man wins on this track alone. Johannes Lochner has 12 two-man wins in all World Cup races.
Look at Francesco's load. Watch him run. Every stride has purpose. Bang, bang, bang. When he loads, it has purpose. It launches him into the sled. That's one of the huge reasons you see these guys. They don't just have massive starts. They have huge velocity, and that is the key element. They carry that speed through, which is where, I mean, Hansi, he will have it from George. They will put in a big start here. I mean, I'd love to see how close they go to the 5:03 because it just shows the level these guys are operating at. But yeah, he knows that was good. He knows that was good.
France took it super high in 10 as well. Throws down the gauntlet as so often in the last couple of seasons to Johannes Lochner, our two-man world champion, trying to beat our two-man Olympic champion. We are seeing two of the best sled drivers in the business here, locking horns week in, week out in two-man and four-man, and you never know who's going to come out on top.
And it might prove to be the starters track we talked about today. If these boys can't match the start, it might be enough, but Hansi was immaculate in the first heat. Can he do it again? 5:08, it's still an amazing push. It just shows the level of Schulli and Friedrich there. Now, Hansi will need to be absolutely A1 through this top section to carry that speed.
Yeah, got to carry that momentum.
600s, it's not big.
The velocity was 1/10 of a kilometre an hour less than Friedrich's. Gap's gone from 14 to 600s to 300s, but better speed into the Kreisel.
Yep, he's going to be it's opening up a little bit now. He's got the #1 speed.
Yep. No mistake, 9 to 10.
That's good.
Big height again in 10, swoops out down into the lower labyrinth. He's going for gold again. This will be his second win in Innsbruck.
What a response.
Johannes Lochner wins it. He does go away from Francesco Friedrich. He wins it and has a brand new track record from the first heat to go with it. Gold for Johannes Lochner, his 13th two-man World Cup win, and a second silver medal on this track for Francesco Friedrich to go with his 11 previous victories.
How again, we're talking about the winning habit. Hansi, Friedrich for the longest time was absolutely unbeatable in the two-man. Hansi took the World Championships last year. Him and George have taken the two-man by storm. Yeah. And what a response, because Friedrich and Schulli laid down something that was pretty extraordinary there. Well, look at him, he's held on to it. Great.
Last week, Johannes drove it into the wall before turn one. His mistake, he admitted. It's the only time he and Georg Fleischauer have not won when they've sat in a sled together. That streak starts again here now at 1.
Yeah.
we wait to see how that continues in 2024. So Johannes Lochner, Georg Fleischhauer claim gold here in Innsbruck. And it is Hansi's second win on this track. Silver medalist last time out behind Francesco Friedrich. Who else? Friedrich's results here actually exceed those of Martins Ducour's in skeleton. But quite often in the last 3 or 4 years, we've had 2 or maybe 4 two-man races at this track. We did a lot of two-man racing here in the COVID era. Johannes Lochner is our victor, walks away with a brand new track record, 800s from Friedrich. Amor ahead of Del Duca, Vogt and Tsipoulis. And Brad Hall on his return just outside the top 10, but Boris Van moved up from 9th to 8th. It's a great result for the relatively new driver from Monaco. And Brad Hall, Taylor Lawrence, well, top 10 result just eluded them, but the good news is that Brad's recovery continues apace. Down at the tail of the field, rookie Jakob Mandelbauer makes the field in his first race ahead of Jakob Prochaska. And well, that is it for our two-man competition, with Johannes Lochner coming out on top. He leads the World Cup rankings into the Christmas New Year break, and he will come out full of vim and vigour, because the next race is St. Moritz, the place where in February he took the World Championship two-man gold away from Francesco Friedrich, the first man to do that in a long, long while. So great stuff from Johannes Lochner and big Georg Fleischhauer on the left-hand side. How Fleischhauer was ever a 400-metre hurdler, beggars belief. He's an absolute beast. He must have been just terrifying to line up against on the start line. He leads Johannes Lochner, the World Cup rankings from Francesco Friedrich. Mickey Vogt in third from Patrick Baumgartner, Emil Tsipoulis and Marcus Treichel. And that rounds out the first part of our season. 5 World Cup races and the World Championships remain after the Christmas New Year break for two-man, and the European Championships for two-man will be in Sigulda in Latvia. But the European Championships for four-man will be tomorrow afternoon. Before that, we have women's bobsleigh, and that will kick off at 10 local, 0900 GMT, 0400 Eastern. So join us for all the action. My thanks to Greg Cackett for his words of wisdom in the booth. We'll look forward to seeing him on the back of the sled tomorrow in the four-man competition. Till then, from all of us here in Innsbruck, from the IBSF TV crew, Martin Hevin saying thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. for Women's Bob.